Welcome to the Art Colony, a podcast about art and art history in Provincetown. My name is Gaston Lacombe. Today we are bending the conventions of what we traditionally think of as art. We will not talk about painting or sculpture or music or literature or film, although what we are discussing today includes all of these and more. Today we are talking about provocation, protest, confusion, discomfort, but also about humor, empowerment, the energy of human connections, and raw freedom. Today we are talking about performance and conceptual art. This art is not about a finished product. It's about an idea, an action, an experience that can only exist in time and space. It's about challenging conventions and forcing the public to engage with concepts that are seldom familiar, sometimes unpleasant, but often also fun. Conceptual and performance art has been part of the Provincetown Art Colony for a long time, although because of its fleeting and impermanent nature, it's not as well documented or remembered. But since the 1970s, one artist has been keeping conceptual and performance art alive in Provincetown, and that is our guest today. So let's welcome to the Art Colony podcast, Jay Critchley. Hi, Jay.
Good morning. That's quite an introduction.
I do what I can. I'm very happy to have you here.
It's a pleasure.
So tell us, who is Jay Critchley?
Well, I'm an animal.
Okay.
I live in Provincetown, which is a particular place in a particular time on the geopolitical landscape of Provincetown, which is unstable. You know, we're a sand dune. So there's an instability here that I think is kind of partly what attracted me.
And where did you come from?
Forestville, Connecticut.
Okay. Which part of Connecticut is that in?
It's central Connecticut near New Britain.
Mm-hmm.
It's the intellectual side of Bristol, Connecticut.
Well, that's good to know.
That's what I was told.
And you've been on the Cape since the 1970s, I read.
1975. This is my 50th year in Provincetown.
Oh, fantastic. So tell us, how did you get to Provincetown back then? What brought you here?
I was living in Connecticut. I just gotten back from 3 years in Oregon as a VISTA volunteer. VISTA, VISTA, Volunteers in Service to America. It's sort of like a homegrown Peace Corps. So I was living in rural Oregon, and I was back in Connecticut, and my future wife, her family lived in Provincetown and Truro. She had a sister who lived in Provincetown, and her parents had a place in Truro. So we kept visiting Cape Cod. And of course, like so many people, you just get hooked.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so in fact, my first art piece that I did was called Just Visiting for the Weekend.
Oh, okay.
The sand car series in the parking lot, encrusted, cars and filled cars with sand. And it was the whole idea that, you just come to Provincetown for the weekend, but then you never leave, whether, physically or psychologically. So at some point, we have to move here. So we did.
Now, when you came back then in the 1970s, were there other artists who were doing performances or conceptual art? Was that something that you saw here in Provincetown then?
Well, I think the whole Commercial Street is a performance art space.
That's true.
And I always thought of it as like a stage set, the town. It's hard to imagine, if you haven't been here in the 70s, what the town was like. It was fantastically dilapidated, and everything was cheap and kind of run down. And the fishing industry was at its height, maybe beginning a little bit to decline. So people came here, to discover, as a refuge, to get away from, or to create. I guess that's why I came here, because I didn't know I was I didn't know I was gay, and I didn't know I was an artist till I came to Provincetown.
No, Provincetown does that to you.
Yeah, it does. So I came out not only as a gay man here, but as an artist. I think of myself as a born-again artist.
Mm-hmm.
My whole evolution as a person and as an artist is basically here. and the elements and the materiality of this place.
So, had you done any sort of performances or art pieces before coming to Provincetown?
Actually, my family used to sing barbershop music,
Oh, that's good.
4-part harmony, a cappella, and we were on the Ted Mack Original Amateur Hour, which was like the American Idol of its day in New York City. And we won the first week, and it was, I mean, if you can see the video on my website, jcritchley.com, there's a little video of us singing. There were like jugglers and accordion players and, like so low tech. But I was in the 6th grade when that happened. And then, of course, in high school, I was Captain Von Trapp in The Sound of Music.
Oh, nice.
The hills are alive. And I learned to play the guitar because I had to sing Edelweiss.
So you have done a lot of performances then.
Yeah, I would say a few. And then in college, I actually had a jug band. I was Jim Kweskin and the jug band, and Maria Moldar and that whole jug band thing, which I don't even hear anything about it now. I don't know if anyone even knows what a jug band
Oh, I
is.
do. Yeah.
So for a while, I had a jug band, and we traveled a little bit around.
So what is it that inspired you when you got here in 1975 to suddenly cover cars with sand or fill cars with sand?
On my way back from Oregon, I was driving in a VW bus, of course. I mean, I was doing my hippie cross-country thing, and I stopped at the Painted Desert in Arizona, New Mexico. I started collecting colored sand. A little bit later on, I went out to the West for a number of reasons. My uncle had left me $500, and I was, going through a divorce. And so I thought, I need a spiritual quest. So I headed out to California, and I visited my friend Emil, who was running this cult in Santa Cruz. And I was greeted with aura washing, like an aura of cleansing, of a group of women in this. He had all these, mostly all women, in these houses around Santa Cruz. And so I arrived. He just left me off at the house, and I walked in, and his women came around me and started doing an aura cleaning. And I was hanging around there for about a week, and that was like enough.
You got cleaned enough. Yeah.
But then I was hitchhiking up to a place, this couple in north of San Francisco, who had a sand collection. And I was like, I have to meet these people. Why are they collecting sand? Like, and then of course there's that whole culture of sand, little sand designs and landscapes in bottles. And my parents had one from their honeymoon or something that I remember seeing growing up. So I started just collecting sand, and I dragged it all the way back to Connecticut. And I worked in Connecticut for a couple of years in human services, working with young people. I started a youth program, and then I dragged all the sand to here. And then I started collecting sand in Provincetown.
So describe to us the piece that you had created, the one you were saying, just here for the weekend.
Yeah, just visiting for the weekend. It was a 1968 Dodge Coronet 500 station wagon, which was the largest car up until then. My sister was collecting water samples in Mississippi. I know it sounds. And so she had driven the car back and left it in Connecticut, and I needed a ride back to Provincetown, and I asked her if I could borrow it. And she said, sure, take it. So I brought it here, and then the Chamber of Commerce was looking for some kind of image or painting to welcome people to Provincetown. So I thought, well, what if we put this sand-encrusted car right on on Route 6? And so I presented, and they said, no, it's illegal. We can't do it. And I thought, well, I'm going to find a place to put it. So I put it right as you entered the parking lot on McMillan Wharf. I had a sticker. I had a seasonal sticker. It was licensed, and it was right as you walked in, drove in, and it created this, I have to say, sensation. Police were involved. They wanted to get it removed. There was traffic. People were standing around, dripping ice cream all over the place. So they wanted to remove it, and the select board had a hearing about it. So I asked Rosalind Garfield, the attorney, to go and represent me with the Board of Select. Well, it was called the Board of Select Men at the time. They were trying to decide, is it a sculpture? Is it a car? Is it a work of art? Like, they couldn't figure it out. It remained in the parking lot. And it really is sort of the beginning of my work as an environmentalist, because it's all about fossil fuels, automobiles. I mean, we know about what the automobile has done to the country, to the countryside, and to the pollution. So it was about fossil fuels and the post World War II freedom of the automobile and the tourism and encrusting it with sand, sort of like um, encrusting it in time, like mummifying it in a way. It had a lot of elements of my work that has evolved since then.
And your work has very much been centered on making a statement about the environment. That's what I've been seeing mostly through your website. I did a lot of research, and a lot of what I see from your work is statements about the state of the environment.
Statements, but also experiences and a deep dive into what our relationship is with the elements and the sense of place, like particularly Provincetown, the materiality of living here, the vernacular of the land. What is the land teaching us? What is the land telling us? What are the so it's evolved to a much deeper place, and I have my little pump jack that I carry around with me now. This is, as you know, it's fracking. Fracking has taken over the country everywhere you go. Luckily, Massachusetts doesn't have fracking. Fossil fuels and energy development and issues related to that have really become a central part of my work.
Can you tell us about a few other of your projects from the 70s or from the early days that were making a statement about the environment?
Sand was a big thing to start with. Everything was encrusted in sand. In fact, just like 10 years ago, I encrusted the Beige Motel in Truro, an entire section of the motel. It was this 1950s A-frame with wings that was being torn down. So I've worked with a lot of buildings, pre-demolition buildings. And it really was exciting to me when I found out that the scientists from Johns Hopkins had determined that the color of the universe is. And would you guess what you think the color of the universe is?
Which part of the universe?
Well, they looked at 200,000 images and websites and photos of the universe, and they determined that what the color of the universe was.
I would guess some sort of pale yellow.
You're close. Beige.
Beige, okay.
Latte.
Uh-huh.
Well, that's what sand is.
Yeah.
So all these years I've been working with sand, and I was working with this cosmic color and cosmic material. And of course, we all know that sand also is silicone, which is what computer chips are made from. So I was working with sand early on, and then I started working with other materials like fish skins. I did a whole series, and I still occasionally work with fish skins, encrusting things with fish skins, putting lights, working with light in fish skins, and of course plastic tampon applicators. Again, it's about the what's around us. What are
Well,
the
yes.
materials?
If you look up Jay Critchley on the internet, eventually you'll come up to a documentary film that was made in 1990 about Provincetown, and there's a whole section in there about you and a dress you had made in disposable plastic tampon applicators, and how you took it to the Statue of Liberty, and it seems to be a big part of your work. Tell us more about that.
Well, all I was doing was walking on the beach and started picking these pink and white plastic applicators up. At the time in the late 70s, early 80s, they were the main thing on the beach. And it wasn't until 1999 that the Boston sewage system was created. Before that, they would overflow during rainstorms and float over. So, so there were thousands of them on the beach. And so I just started collecting them. I didn't know what they were at the time, even though I have 6 sisters, I
Mhm.
never saw a tampon in the house. I started making sculptures with them, and then people's like, "You know what those are?" I'm like, "Oh, is that what they are?" So, um, so that was another element of materials that I were working. I think of my work as locally sourced. I've been defining my work lately as locally sourced and interspatial rather than multidisciplinary or something, because it just seems like, well, locally sourced is obvious. The material, like wherever I go, if I'm a visiting artist somewhere, wherever, like what am I standing on? What is the ground like? What are the materials around me? Um, but interspatial is about what is that space, that liminal space between objects, between ideas, between concepts, the energy and the dynamic of that space is kind of, I think, where my work comes from. So it's about relational ideas.
Mhm. Now, with that dress made out of tampon applicators, what did you do? Because I think it's been an ongoing part of your work. Because you also formed a corporation around it.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned it because I am CEO of about a dozen
Mm-hmm.
corporations, and one of them is called TACI, TACKI, which is Tampon Applicator Creative Clubs International. It's one of my many corporations, and I started this idea in the 80s because I realized that at the time, and of course, corporations now run everything, but at the time, I felt like they were running everything. And so I thought, well, if I want to have a platform, a respectable platform, then I can set up a corporation, I can become president, and then I have something important to say. And the media, like that. Oh, you're president of the NRC, the Nuclear Recycling Consultants. I took a journey. I did a film, and I had a journey of all abandoned nuclear power plants in the country. Not all of them, but a lot of them in the Midwest and South. And I was treated, like a corporate executive. I got into 3 Mile Island. I saw the phone the corded phone that was used to call up and say the plant's like melting down. So it gives you a lot of entrance to the media, and people like look at you differently if you're a CEO. And I did a TEDx talk called "Portrait of the Artist as a Corporation." And the idea is that if corporations can become individuals and get all the rights of individuals, why can't individuals be corporations? We can get tax deductible credits, we can get um, bankruptcy protection, and all these other things that corporations get.
So tell us about some of the other corporations you founded.
The IRS, the International Rerouter Society, which was formed in 1983 at the Provincetown dump when I was standing after Christmas in the dump and I saw, back then it was like a really fun dump,
Okay.
like, in fact, Forrest Gump got the idea from me, from Forrest Dump. I created a forest in the dump by
Okay.
turning the Christmas trees up and creating a forest that were all piled with turkey bones and wrappers and um, so that's where I had the idea of like these trees have been cut. Let's see if we can reroot them to the ground. And then what about rerouting ourselves? So it's all about reconnecting to the earth. And so that started in 1983, the IRS. And so every year on January 7th, which is after the 12 days of what I call stockpiling of the Christmas season, holiday season, so January 7th, I build a little boat and I find a discarded Christmas tree and I bring it out onto the water and burn it at sunset. But there's also a whole ceremony that goes along with it. I have the 10 Commandments, like I was just brought last year. Last year, I had the 10 Commandments of self-trafficking, but the theme last year for the ceremony was carbon-captured broligarchs, and I always have a different theme every year, and that, of course, I'm working on this year for January 7th. I'm still in process.
Yeah, because this show will be on at the end of December, so people can prepare in time to be at your event on January 7th.
January 7th, 4 o'clock at the Breakwater Hotel Beach in the east end of Provincetown. Wear your rubbers.
So that's the one by the Harbor Hotel, right?
Harbor Hotel,
Yeah.
Breakwater Hotel Beach.
Mhm.
Yes. Rain or storm.
So tell us about the 10 commandments you had written last year.
You know, there's a number of things that happen. I have rewritten Christmas carols, you know, like We Free Yanks, you know, and Oh Holy Blight Divine, where the chorus goes, cut down the trees, oh, hear the eerie voices. I'm a writer also, and I go through a process of discovering words. I love words and new words and mangled words and things like that. So the 10 Commandments are kind of like me putting words together that I've collected. So, for instance, the 10 Commandments of self-trafficking, commandment number 1, cultivated amnesia is the Lord thy God, and thou shalt not have porn literacy, ordinariness, hacking, cost shock, kelp forested, polyethylene women, galactic backyards, and then people chant, no brack deruptac globe.
That's a made-up word, or is it something backwards?
It's backwards.
It's backwards, okay.
It's carbon captured oligarchs backwards. And then some of the other the poetic kind of mangleness, refugee upcycled brain rot is mentioned in here, carbon kindness. That's what this is. This is about carbon. Like I'm doing my penance for carbon kindness because I think we've all been very kind to carbon, you know, and we need to recognize that. There's microbial modes of closeness, geocentric predictive market race baiting suicidality, arms controlled infowar extinction bursts. So it goes on with different kinds of wording like the unmindfulness cattle laundering.
Now, I've been to a few of these events, and usually you have a very specific outfit you put on. Tell us about your garb for this event.
The garb, the ceremonial garb. Well, the hat is the same. It gets little changes to it. It's got 2 arms. It started out as a pilgrim hat, but I've added wreaths and flowers and there's a big ball in the top and there's a light and has 2 little baby arms holding burnt $10 bills, which for the 10th Rerouters Day, I burned the $10 bills. The dress, it depends. If I find a nice dress over the course of the year, or a shawl, or something colorful, or maybe some military or hunting outfits, I'll wear that. And it depends also on the weather, because there have been times when it's been below 0.
Yes, I've been to one of those. It was in the 20s.
I'm still recovering from it.
So January 7th, you said 4 p.m. at Breakwater Hotel Beach, which is all the way in the east end of town, near Snail Road.
Yeah.
If people want to come, they have to dress warmly. They have to get their voices ready because they're going to be asked to sing and participate.
They will be, yes.
Anything else?
Well, just have fun. I mean, it seems to be a fun thing for everybody. But it's a purging, it's a purging of the previous year. Hopefully it'll sink in and we'll move forward into the miasma that we're in.
I sure hope so. Welcome back. Just a reminder, if you would like to follow us on Instagram, you can do so at the Art Colony Podcast. And also, if you would like to support the podcast, you can do so at buymeacoffee.com/ the Art Colony Podcast, where you can leave us a little tip. Or you can just go to buymeacoffee.com and search for the Art Colony Podcast. Jay, your work has a lot of humor in it. I mean, it has very deep meanings. It has, there's a message there, but it's also presented with a lot of humor. Is that something you do purposefully, or is just something that happens naturally?
Living on this planet, how can you not find things humorous, or either like get depressed and not do anything? Um, but I do want to introduce my friend Esso.
Please.
So Esso is an eastern screech owl that I fortunately connected with during COVID lockdown in 2020, and we became buddies.
So for those listening, Esso is now talking to us through the phone.
So I befriended Esso. They have become sort of my animal spirit that I go to, when I need to reconnect into the Earth sphere, and so she's with me all the time.
And where do you find her?
In my backyard, I was sitting in. It was August of 2020. During lockdown, and at night in my backyard. And Esso started calling to me. I've seen I think she's a them, like every summer since then.
And what are your conversations about?
The planet, and how we're in this thing together, and what the hell are human beings doing? Like, what is this madness all about? I don't know. I said, I don't, it's not something that makes any sense. Well, we need all these voices to be speaking out.
And does Esso have something specific to say? Do they have a message for us?
The message is to just stop the shit and, stop listening to the planet, to the earth, to the voices, to the intelligence of the land. And I think the bottom line is that's what we all need to do is start from the ground up, because certainly from the top down it's not working.
Now, how do you present this work? For example, the work you're doing now with Esso, how does that get presented to the public?
Well, just like right now.
Right now on the podcast,
Yeah,
yes.
right.
Are there other opportunities where you present it?
Well, when I make a presentation, if I'm at a show or someplace where I'm asked to speak, I can present and present Esso.
And I've also seen you putting installations at the Commons more than once. So you do participate in artist shows with your own installations and conceptual constructions at the Commons once in a
Oh
while.
yes, absolutely. The Commons is a great community space. Last spring there was the Outsiders Festival. One of my sculptures is a repurposed porta potty called the I Zone, and I took the guts out of it and put a window in one side and lights, and it's actually a mobile performance space. So it was in the collage show at the Commons. So there was a performance. I did a performance inside it and out of it, and then Hillary Tamer did some singing, and then lots of people had their photos taken. It was a show curated by Karen Capoto, and yeah, and then I've shown it at a show. I had a show at Montserrat College of Art in Beverly, north of Boston, and it was also shown there and activated in different ways.
One thing I saw on your website also that you were showing at Montserrat were snow globes.
No snow globes.
No snow globes. Can you tell us about those?
Well, like I said, a lot of my work has been about energy and fossil fuels. The no snow globes are small globe, like about that big, maybe 3 or 4 inches round, and so they're filled with motor oil. So I have little animals and little objects that are inside them. So when you look in, you'll see like a little zebra or a Mickey Mouse or something. And I've worked with motor oil. I had a show in New York like 20 years ago where I was working with motor oil in a installation piece.
And that's another thing that's interesting that I saw on your website. You've had presentations, performances, shows in so many locations globally.
Actually, Miss Tampon Liberty was in Japan way back. I knew they came and filmed me here, and this had to be in the 80s. But then a friend of mine, believe it or not, who was living in Japan, actually saw the show. There was something about what is this gown worth?
Okay.
Right? So it's like, and it was like 3,000-pound plastic tampon applicators. I only use it for very sacred spaces. Like I went to the State House to propose legislation to ban the sale of, quote, non-feminine hygiene products, plastic, non-biodegradable. And of course, all the tampon lobbies came in force and it got defeated. But I did wear it in the State House in the marbled halls of Boston. And the sound of it is the most incredible part because, there's a vibration in those marble halls. But it was in a box for a couple of like 20 years. And then 2 years ago, I was invited to give the keynote speech at a conference in St. Andrews, Scotland on menstruation and sustainability. Of course, I went. And then after I gave my talk, I put on the Miss Tampon Liberty gown and I led everyone down to the beach on the North Sea. And I did a whole ceremony there with the gown on.
And did you find any applicators there?
No, I didn't actually.
Is it something that's banned now?
No, they're not banned at all. It's just partly because I mentioned the Boston sewage system did a regional system in '99. In fact, when they turned the valve on at 11 a.m. on a certain date in 1999, I did a protest at Race Point because of the outfall pipe that replaced the sewage system. It's a 9.5-mile outfall pipe that goes into the middle of Cape Cod Bay and releases millions and millions and millions of fresh water, not tertiary treated fresh water, into Cape Cod Bay every single day. So it's really changing the microbiology and the biology of the harbor. And so I did a protest with my gown on and a bunch of other people at Race Point.
Do you do any work with the Coastal Studies Center?
I have worked with them. In fact, way back when I first got in town, I actually was one of the organizers of the Center for Coastal Studies before they became a nonprofit.
Because they gather a lot of marine debris. And there's one artist who shows in my gallery, Tor Jensen. Last year, he had done a whole show around marine debris. It was part sculpture, part pottery, part also performance. But they have all of this available material that they gather from the oceans that artists can go and use in their own work.
Oh, yeah, no, I've been working with Laura Ludwig. Yes, she collects plastic tampon applicators for me and other things. I have a project I'm working on with material that I've gotten from them. Yeah, yeah.
And speaking about water, you also do something very important this town every year, and that's the Swim for Life.
Yes, again, this is a performance art piece.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's how I think about it. It's activating the harbor with neon-colored caps and kayaks. It's been going on for next year will be the 39th Swim for Life, and we've raised about $8 million over 38 years.
And the money goes to?
13 nonprofits. The primary beneficiaries are Outer Cape Health, helping our women in the aid support group of Cape Cod. So there are others like the Soup Kitchen and the West End Racing Club.
So it's a big deal. It's in September, right?
September 12th, this coming year.
And you have a few hundred swimmers who come together and fundraise and then swim across the harbor.
Well, we're not swimming across the harbor.
Well, true. Yes, you used to swim across from Provincetown to Long Point, but now we have sharks to deal with. So now you're doing
Yes,
it along the coast.
right. Since 2020, we've been doing it along the East End, from the Harbor Hotel to Breakwater Hotel to the Johnson Street Beach.
Okay.
So it's 1.2 miles. We also have a half-mile swim, which we started a couple of years ago, which is great. It allows a lot of people who don't want to do the full swim or are unable to, or young people or whatever. So yeah, it's an incredible event. The Provincetown Community Compact is the sponsor, which I'm the director of, and it's just an incredible event. I feel honored to be part of it.
Mm-hmm. And you are the inspiration behind all of it.
I co-founded it, yes.
Yeah. But it's interesting that you're saying that it's a performance piece. I had never thought of it that way, that it activates the harbor.
Yes, and so the harbor, so there's two big events that I'm involved with: the Swim for Life in September, and then the Rerouters Day on January 7th.
And would you say that video is also an element of your work? Because performance art is something, as I said at the beginning, that exists in a specific time and a specific place. And unless it's captured somehow by video, then it will be ephemeral. It won't be staying. So do you consider video a big part of your work?
Yes. I mean, a lot of it's been documented. My website has a lot of videos on it, jcritchley.com. But also I've created, I do a lot of short experimental videos. I've had about 12 or more videos in the film festival in town. Some of them are specifically created as videos, and some of them are documentation. And then other people have done videos also.
Well, I watched one of your videos on your website yesterday, and it affected my whole day. It was the video about yawning. Because afterwards, I felt so tired. I kept on yawning because yawning is contagious, of course. Tell us about the yawning video.
I like playing with words. So, global warming somehow turned into global yawning, because I'm actually an expert yawner.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, yawning is one of the ways of releasing a lot of emotion and tension in our bodies, but also it cools the brain. The idea with global yawning is that if everyone in the world yawned, we would cool the planet. So I did a number of videos. I worked with traveling in different places, New York and Concord, Mass, and Boston, here, videotaping people yawning. You saw that's the video.
I did, yes. And then I couldn't stop yawning afterwards.
I love to, don't get me started. I love to yawn. And of course, it's one of those things that, when you yawn, it's like you're kind of embarrassed about it. And when people yawn, I'm like, keep going. Like go with it.
But you had something there also about the planet being tired, and the planet needed to yawn itself.
Exactly. Yes. Right. We need we need to let the planet breathe and do its what it does.
And that's what I'm saying, that you make very important statements, but you bring them out through humor. And I think that's a great way to reach a larger public that will listen to these ideas.
Yeah, it's not like I say I want to be humorous. It's just the way that being raised as an Irish Catholic in a very strict household with 8 brothers and sisters. I was the oldest boy. And so I was sort of pushed luckily in my own little tiny closet room, so I could start making all my things. And I think, being queer, also, feeling, having this double life, you have this way of seeing the world in different prisms. Humor is a way, I guess, to survive.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So I find myself laughing. Like, I write every day now, and I find myself, when I'm writing, I find myself just laughing, like, at what I'm writing, and I'm thinking, well, it can't get better than this, right?
So we have on January 7th the Rerouters. Is it a festival? Rerouters. What do you call it?
Rerouters Day ceremony.
Rerouters Day ceremony. That's coming up January 7th. Do you have other things coming up soon?
I do. I have several exhibitions and projects coming up in different places that I don't have specifics of now, but in Gloucester, in New Jersey, in Cape Cod, in town. This year there's a lot of projects in process right now.
Well, we keep you busy.
Well, I like to think occupied, not busy.
Occupied. Okay, good. Well, you already mentioned your website a few times, jcritchley.com, right? So if you want to see more of Jay's work, go on his website. There's a lot there. There's a lot of videos that go back all the way to the 70s, a lot of information about all the messages he's been sending into the universe since that time. And I think it's just so wonderful to have you in this town to, bring these important messages and make us think, make us do things outside of our comfort zone and make us laugh a little bit. I think it's just wonderful.
Well, I appreciate your doing this program and really tapping into the incredible number of artists here. I mean, it's just really is incredible when you go to the Commons or the Art Association for group shows, and there's hundreds of artists that are connected to Provincetown or live here or trying to live here, and so it's we want to keep that energy going.
But not a lot of them are performance artists.
No.
So that makes you special. Well, thank you very much for joining us, Jay.
Thank you so much.
And thank you all for joining us. And we wish you a very happy 2026.